Okay, thank you very much for giving me opportunity to deliver this particular talk on introduction to cryptography as well as uh, digital signatures and PKI. So I have two sessions today. So I will try my best to present it in the simplest way possible, not getting into the technical aspects like mathematical aspects and logical aspects of each and every algorithm. But in fact, I would like to present in such a way that every non-technical person should understand the cryptography. I do understand that this is a post-lunch session, and I hope that the examples that I will be giving would really benefit you in understanding. With the agenda, this is my agenda. So I will be talking on basics of cryptography, and then under basics of cryptography, I would cover a few of the examples, one or two examples of substitution ciphers, transposition ciphers, and DES algorithm, that is data encryption standard algorithm. And then I'll cover hash functions. I'll give the examples of symmetric key cryptography and asymmetric key cryptography from the trust properties point of view, that is confidentiality, authenticity, integrity, and non-repudiation. And the same session with the same concept, with this particular background, we'll move on to the next session, that is digital signatures and PKI. In between, I'll show the demos as well. I'll show you certain technical aspects through demos, which will really help you in understanding this particular concept. If you have any queries or questions, you can please ask the questions by typing it in the chat window. Okay, so let me start with the properties of trust. Let us say if any application is there, software application is there, or a website is there. And then if someone is saying that this particular application has the trust properties, or this is a trusted application, then there are certain properties that you need to look at, which is very much important and relevant when we talk about trust point of view. The first one is called as the first property is called as privacy or confidentiality. Let me tell that privacy and confidentiality earlier was given the same meaning in cryptography technology, but now privacy, because data privacy and all those laws are coming. So let us concentrate more on the term called confidentiality. So what is confidentiality? Preventing disclosure of information to unauthorized individuals or systems. In the simplest way, I would like to give an example that if I want to send a message to you, if I want to send a document to you, then the document, because it is intended to you only, so only you and me should be able to read that particular document or the content of that document. No unauthorized person should be able to read that particular document. Then if that particular property or assurance is given, then that particular assurance is called as confidentiality in the application systems. Okay, that is confidentiality. Now the next property is called as authenticity. Authenticity means ensuring that the user, data, transactions, communications, or documents are genuine. If I am saying that I am Misbah, there should be a mechanism for you to really prove that I am Misbah. Okay, what is the mechanism? Presently in the virtual world, in the world that we are living in, we have a method called authentication using username and password. So when I'm entering my username called Misbah, then the system or the server will ask me, prove it. So how do I prove it that I am Misbah? I'll prove it by giving a secret which is known only to me, that is password. So I'll enter the password. In other ways, if it is a different type of authentication mechanism, then OTP will be entered or biometric will be given, because OTP also belongs to me, biometric also belongs to me, as well as digital certificate if it belongs to me. So person's authentication, documents authentication, user data authentication, anything which you are sending over a communication channel should get authenticated at the receiving end. If that particular property is achieved, then that particular property is called as authenticity. Now the third property that comes under trust properties is integrity. In short, data cannot be modified without authorization. What do you mean by this? Let me give an example again. I have sent you a particular document. When you have received the document, there should be a mechanism at your end, that is receiving end, that you should be able to validate that particular document content. Whatever the sender has sent, the same content or the same document is to be received by the receiver. Suppose during the transit, if the content is modified, or if the content is fabricated, or if the content is intercepted and then changed, modification is done, fabrication is done, then in that particular case, that particular data or that particular document will be called as breach of integrity. That particular activity is called as breach of integrity. So basically what happens, we should understand, is in a network channel, when two communicating parties are there, sender and receiver. So in a sender and receiver channel, internet by default is insecure. That is what we need to understand. Internet is insecure. Why I'm saying insecure? Because by default, internet does not provide you security. HTTP is the protocol. Unless and until that particular organization provides an HTTPS kind of configuration website, then only you can get a guarantee or assurance from the website provider that your communication is secure to that particular website. So why I'm saying that this particular this internet channel is insecure, I always give this particular example. Internet is like information highway. Now we have a highway here, Bangalore to Chennai, Bangalore to Pune, and Bangalore to other places across India. We have national highways. You have seen that on the national highways, by default, there won't be any police personnel deputed for protecting the entire highway. No, by default, it will not be there. You may see randomly somewhere a police patrolling vehicle or a highway police or highway patrolling vehicles, you may see, but the entire highway will not be protected. But you might have seen that there are some very big restaurants, some very big dhabas are there who deploys a security personnel on their particular restaurant. So whoever is interested on the national highway for protecting their own properties, they will put the security personnel. Similarly, when you are talking about virtual world or internet world, then in that particular case also, by default, internet is an information highway from which the data gets transmitted from one entity to another entity. So by default, there won't be any security deployed onto the internet HTTP. Whichever website, like a restaurant or a dhaba on the internet highway, similarly, on the internet highway, if a website wants to provide security to its customers, then they will provide the SSL kind of certificate or TLS kind of certificate to protect their websites. Okay. Now, if the website is not protected with that kind of a mechanism, then what will happen? If it is plainly running on HTTP, then in that case, there are threats that are there, like interception. Interception is a mechanism wherein the criminal, I'm writing it here for you to understand. Interception. What is interception? Interception is a mechanism wherein the criminal or the attacker will actually intercept your data, silently copy your data. This comes under passive attack. Okay. So under passive attack, they will intercept that particular data and then they'll keep a copy of that data. Okay. Second one is modification. One more threat is modification. What do you mean by modification? Modification means once the criminal or the cyber criminal or the hacker or the unauthorized person, when they intercept the data, they will be able to modify that data as well. If they are modifying and sending it to the receiver, then that particular kind of activity is called as modification. Then there is one more called fabrication. Okay, what do you mean by fabrication? The sender has not sent any message. The third party, the unauthorized party, the hacker has created a message and he's sending to the receiver. If that particular activity is done, then that kind of message is called as fabricated message. And that kind of activity is called as fabrication. Okay, so these are some basic kind of concepts that we need to understand before understanding the cryptography. So interception, modification, fabrication, interruption is also there. Interruption is simply blocking your communication. Okay, blocking your communication. So your communication is, quite smooth. You are sending the messages, the receiver is receiving the messages. What the criminal or the hacker, the third party, will do is he will block the communication. And once he blocks the communication, the receiver will not be able to receive the data. That is one thing. Second thing, once he blocks the communication, he may copy and he may modify and he may fabricate a new message also. Anything he can do. So let us go back to the presentation now. So from that point of view, again, I'm going back to the first property called confidentiality. In this particular scenario, where internet is insecure channel, on this particular insecure channel, when your application software or your website is providing the assurance to the user that when you send a message to our website, that particular message will be received by the receiver and will not be read by any unauthorized party. In that case, confidentiality is achieved. And when the receiver is able to authenticate the data, validate the data, validate the user also, validate the client or the sender also, then that property is called as authenticity. And there is third property that is called as integrity. Integrity, during the transit, when the sender has sent a message, receiver has received a message, the receiver received a message without any tampering happened in the message. So there was no tampering of the message. In that particular case, this particular property is called as integrity of data. Okay, and there is one more property that is called as non-repudiation or non-repudiability. Saying that in this particular, let me give an example. I sent a mail to you. Okay, and later on, when you are asking me that you sent a mail to me, I am denying, saying that I have not sent a mail to you. Now, your application, does it have any mechanism to really prove that that particular mail is sent by indeed Misbahuddin and not by anyone else? If you are able to prove it in the court of law, then that particular property is called as non-repudiation property. Okay, so these are the four properties of trust. We will keep coming back to these properties when we talk further about asymmetric key cryptography, asymmetric key cryptography, digital signatures, and all that. So these are very important properties, but basic, easy to understand properties. In short, it is called as, if you take P as privacy, then in short it is called as Payne properties. If you take C for confidentiality, then it becomes Kane properties that we need to remember. Okay. Now this is the scenario which I was talking about. A sender and a receiver is there, and the sender sends a message to the receiver through the insecure channel, that is internet channel, internet communication channel, and there will always be a third party who is an unauthorized party here. Generally, if you look at the network security books, which are referred by engineering students and BCA students, other students, the famous book is William Stallings, Cryptography and Network Security by William Stallings. And in many other books also, they give the example of one person as Alice, A for Alice, and this is B for Bob. Hope you are looking at the cursor movement also, because I mostly use the cursor movement here to explain the concepts. So please concentrate on this. So this is Alice, this is Bob. Okay, A for Alice, B for Bob. If a third party is there, if a third person is also there, then C for Carol. A fourth person is there, then D for Dave. So A for Alice, B for Bob, C for Carol, D for Dave. And in most of the books, the unauthorized party, the attacker, is named as Eve or Trudy. Eve or Trudy. Okay. Now, in this particular case, in Indian scenario, when we have presented these particular examples, many of the non-technical people, they said that we are getting confused with A for Alice and B for Bob, because these are the foreign names, so we are not able to understand who is he, who is she, and all that. Okay, so what we have done is we have come up with the Indian version of these names. Okay, I will be taking those names only during the entire session. Okay, here we have considered this as the famous characters, film characters. This is Jay, this is Viru. One sender is Jay or sender is Viru, whatever. One entity is Jay, another entity is Viru. So obviously the criminal or the attacker would be Gabbar. Okay. So let us proceed further taking these examples. Now the model for network security, which is defined in William Stallings' book. Just now I was telling you that cryptography and network security, famous book is there, written by William Stallings. So Mr. William Stallings, he has given in the first chapter itself the model for network security. Okay, what is this model? This model is the sender wants to send a message to the receiver. You just concentrate on the arrows, my cursor. Sender wants to send the message to the receiver. Now, when sender wants to send a message to the receiver, this message is meant to be confidential in nature. What do you mean by confidential? Confidential means this opponent should not be able to read that particular message. Opponent in the sense this Gabbar. So if this is Jay and this is Viru, then this is Gabbar. So obviously, whatever is being transmitted between Jay and Viru, Gabbar will always like to read that message from the channel. Okay, but here the model for network security says that the message is to be sent in such a way that Gabbar should not be able to read that message. So if you want to ensure that particular property, then what you have to do, first of all, you have to apply a security related transformation with the help of secret information. This is too technical in nature. So let me simplify it. Let me tell you that this security related transformation is nothing but a lock. What do we lock in our daily life? We lock only those things, those items which are valuable in nature. We don't lock everything. I don't lock a pen, okay, because pen comes in 10 rupees, 20 rupees or 30 rupees. I will not lock pen. In fact, I would like to lock my bicycle. I would like to lock my bike, my car, my door, and all other items which are valuable in nature. Similarly, in information security, in cyber security as well, you need to protect information based on its value, the value of the information. If the information is valuable, if the information is confidential in nature, then obviously you have to protect it. So in case of protection in physical, in our real life, in physical world, then we use a lock. Every lock will have a key as well, lock and a key. So when we talk about lock and a key, then obviously there should be a mechanism in internet world as well, electronic world as well. So in the electronic world, we do have a concept of lock and a key. Lock is nothing but cipher, the topic which I'm covering in this particular session, cipher. So the technical name of the lock is nothing but cipher. So every cipher, like in physical world, every lock will have a key. Similarly, every cipher will also have a key. Okay, so now which is important, whether cipher is important or a strength of cipher is important or a strength of key is important? Both are important. You need to remember that both are important. Strength of key is also important, strength of cipher is also important. Okay, now let us say that we have identified one lock and the key for protecting our message. So if you do that, then that particular key is to be given to a copy of the key is to be given to the receiver as well. Because when you lock, obviously, when you lock the door, you have to unlock as well. So for unlocking, the receiver requires the key. Because I have put the lock, I have a copy of key, original key, I have to give a copy of key to the receiver as well in order to open that particular lock. So now let us apply this particular example to this model for network security. Now Jay is there, Jay wants to send a message to Viru, and this message is meant to be confidential in nature. Now in this message, what Jay will do, Jay will select a lock. Let us say DES algorithm, AES algorithm, RC4, RC2, so many ciphers are there. I'm not taking the technical names. In fact, I'm just telling you lock. So any RC4 lock, or DES lock or AES lock, any lock he has selected. Now, when he has selected the lock, he will select the key also. He'll generate the key also. Now, this particular message which he intends to protect, this message he will lock it with that particular selected lock and the key. And this becomes the secure message. In technical terms, this secure message is called as ciphertext because we have taken the cipher and the cipher has transformed this particular text into some ununderstandable form output. That is why it is called as ciphertext. So I have taken a message, I have logged it. Once I lock it, I get a secure message, which in technical terms it is called as ciphertext. Now, when this ciphertext is transmitted over the channel, the opponent, that is Gabbar, will not be able to decrypt this particular message. So what the receiver, that is Viru, is receiving? Viru is receiving a confidential message, which is a ciphertext. Now, this ciphertext is to be unlocked. So unlocking is to be done. So the receiver should have a key. So already now we are assuming that Jay and Viru are both good friends, and they have met somewhere personally, physically, and they have exchanged the keys. So Jay has given the copy of key to Viru. So Viru will be able to decrypt this particular message. So this particular concept is called as symmetric key cryptography. Symmetric, because same key is used both for locking as well as unlocking. I'll come to this particular topic of symmetric key cryptography later again. Okay. Now there is one more concept here written as trusted third party. This particular concept I will cover when we talk about asymmetric key cryptography almost at the end of this particular session. Okay. Now, if you want to look at the classification of various cryptographic mechanisms, then the cryptographic mechanisms, or in short, if you can call it as crypto systems, can be classified based on types of operations. Okay, based on types of operations: substitution cipher, transposition cipher, the way in which plain text is processed, block cipher or stream cipher, the number of keys used, symmetric or asymmetric, and the hash functions and steganography. Okay, we will discuss few of these one by one. Let me first give you an example of how encryption and decryption, the locking and unlocking happens. Okay, let us say Jay and Viru both are communicating with each other. This is Jay, sender is Jay, and here is Viru. Now Jay wants to send this particular text, and suppose if this particular text is meant to be a confidential text, then obviously that confidential text or the document is to be logged. So for locking, Jay has identified a cipher, an encryption algorithm, a lock, and a key. So he will lock this, he gets the ciphertext. This is the ciphertext. Now what this particular cipher does, the cipher transforms, does some mathematical computations behind, mathematical and logical computations it does in the background, and then this particular English kind of text, or the text in the language which a human being understands, is transformed or converted to a language, to a series of characters which is uninterpretable or ununderstandable form. Okay, this is called as ciphertext. Now this ciphertext is sent to Viru. Now what Viru has to do? Viru has to read that. So in order to read that, Viru will apply the key which is shared by Jay and decrypts that to get the plain text out of that. This is the simplest example of symmetric key cryptography. I'll come back again on symmetric key cryptography later. Let me first give you an example of substitution cipher. Now, what is this substitution cipher? Substitution cipher is a cipher, an algorithm, locking again, a kind of lock wherein the characters are replaced with other characters. Okay, so here each character is simply represented by another character. For example, if I have input characters starting from A, B, C, D up to Z, then the output characters will be this. This is called as keypad. This gray color box table that you are seeing is called as keypad. So wherever in my plain text A is there, the system will replace this A with H, B with X, C with B, and all. Okay. Do you have any questions? Okay. So this is the simplest example of substitution cipher. We'll see a couple of few other examples also. Okay. In its simplest form, there is no logic in order of representation. Obviously, here substitution of characters is required. Now, a type of substitution cipher is called as Caesar cipher, which works on shift operation. I'll give you an example here. Okay, if input plain text is having A, B, C, D, E, F, then output will be, suppose if K is equals to 3, that means 3 shifts you have to do. So leaving A, B, C, A of input text will become D in the cipher text. This is input, this is output. B will become E, C will become F based on K shifts. K shifts means here K I have taken as 3. Let me show you one example. Let us say my input is Krishna. Okay. And key size K is equals to 3. When the key size K is equals to 3, then in that case, the input Krishna, if you look at here, K is there. Okay. Here K is there. And you leave K, L, M, 3 characters. N will become the ciphertext. Please don't look at the case sensitiveness. You might be thinking that here capital letter is there, output small letter is there. Just for understanding purpose, example purpose, I have written it separately. I have written the plain text in capital letters and ciphertext output in small letters. So, and now if you look at R is here in my alphabet set. If I apply K is equals to 3 shifts, R, S, T. So U becomes my ciphertext. Here you can see. Similarly, I. For I, J, K I leave and L becomes my ciphertext. This is the way. If I change the key size, K is equals to 6. I've changed from K is equals to 3 to K is equals to 6. So my output becomes different. So obviously for K, I have to leave 6 characters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Q becomes my. Okay, this is the simplest. Adabash cipher is another kind of cipher wherein if the plain text is from A to Z, the ciphertext will be in the reverse order. So A will be replaced with Z, B will be replaced with Y. Now, if I apply the same example of Krishna, what will be the output? For K, what will be the output? K will be replaced with P. R will be replaced with I in that way. It is a simple example. Okay. Now, there is one more cipher that is called as Vigenère cipher. In Vigenère cipher, the characters, alphabet, are plotted in a matrix. We have 26 characters in English. Okay, so A to Z, 26 characters are there. So here you need to have 26 rows and 26 columns. 26 rows and 26 columns to create a matrix. Now, in this 26 rows and 26 column matrix, the most important thing that you need to understand is every row should have all the characters from A to Z. And every column should have all the characters from A to Z in such a way that the character is not repeated in the same row and column. If you look at from here, you just look at my cursor, A, B, C, D up to Z. A, B, C, D up to Z in the row and column. And second row is starting with B. Second column is starting with B. Third row is starting with C. Third column is starting with C. This is in order to make sure that the rows, the characters are not repeated in rows and columns. So this is how you have created a Vigenère cipher matrix. Now, encryption is required. Suppose my text is square. This is my input text, which I want to encrypt, which I want to lock. In order to log this, what happens is I need a key. When I have a lock, I have this lock. This is a Vigenère cipher is a lock. So what is the key? Key is FROG-FR. This is the key. So what I have to do, how in the background, the algorithm, the cipher will encrypt it, how cipher will lock it. Let us see that. Okay. What will happen is the cipher, the application will take the first character of input text and the first character of key, S and F. It looks the input character S in the row and key character F in the column. And it checks where these two are meeting, which is the meeting point. They both are meeting or they both are intersecting at a character called X. So X becomes the ciphertext. Now second, QR. Q is here, R is here. Now let us try to trace it. If you go in this row up to the column value of R, you will find H. You will find H. This is how the ciphertext is created. It is very simple. Okay, this is one example of substitution cipher. Now let us go to the transposition cipher. There are other ciphers that are named as transposition ciphers. What is the difference between substitution and transposition cipher? Substitution cipher basically requires the characters in the input plain text replaced with other characters. This is what is substitution cipher. Whereas transposition cipher does not require the characters in the input plain text to be replaced with other characters. Instead, only jumbling happens. Only the order of the character is changed. So there are simple examples which I am going to give you. If you have any doubt, any question, you can ask me. One example is rail fence cipher. Rail fence cipher is the name of one transposition cipher. So the input plain text is capture fox. Okay. So what the rail fence cipher does, I think you might have seen the railway platform fencing. That fencing will have I think in this way there will be wooden blocks which will have an arrow-headed kind of cuttings. That is what is rail fence. Okay. So in rail fence, here what happens is whatever input plain text is there, you need to plot that input plain text based on number of rows. Here in this example, I have selected 2 rows. So what you have done, it is very simple. Let me take the pointer to show you better. Okay. So what you have to do, you have to draw a rail fence. Rail fence will be like this. Now I am able to draw. I'm sorry, because using mouse I am drawing. This kind of fencing you might have seen on railway platforms. That is why it is called as rail fence cipher. All the wooden blocks will be there. Are you able to catch up? Can anyone reply? Are you able to understand what example I am giving? At least in chat box, if you can enter yes or no. Okay, thank you very much, Deepakji. Thank you. So this is what is rail fence cipher. So now from this rail fence cipher, if you take the upper head, pointed arrows, so this way, this one. So based on this mechanism, this particular cipher is designed. So what you have to do, whatever plain text you have, that plain text you have to plot it in that fashion only. You can see this fashion. So CA. So I have selected here 2 rows. Number of rows is nothing but the secret. So I have selected 2 rows here. 2 rows CA, then PTUREFOX. First of all, you write it in this way. Okay. When you write it in this way, what will be the output? For the output, you take the first row as first set of characters, second row as second set of characters for the cipher text. See here, CPUEO. This is the first set of characters. And second set is ATRFX. This becomes the cipher text, rail fence cipher, the simplest. Okay, let me show you the example directly. There is one tool that is called a script tool. I hope you are able to see the screen. Yes, you're able to see the screen, sir. This is what is rail fence. Sorry, this is a script tool. Okay. Okay, thank you very much, sir. So now in this, I'll show you the example. Hello, welcome to cryptography session. Okay, thanks. This is my message. Now this message I want to encrypt. If I want to encrypt, there are many ciphers that are given here. Classic ciphers, modern ciphers, and all that. Asymmetric ciphers, everything. This is a very good tool. It's a free open source tool, which you can use it for understanding the concepts of cryptographic algorithms. Or if your children are studying, or they are willing to know more about cryptography and all, this is a very good tool. You can see this tool here, Crypt tool. You just search Crypt tool in Google, you'll find it. Now, symmetric classic ciphers. I have just now shown you different ciphers, right? One cipher is substitution cipher, add-bash cipher. Okay. Anyhow, I'm not going for that one. Now, the rail fence cipher. I'm going for rail fence cipher. Okay, rail fence. So in the rail fence, number of rows are 2. Okay. Encrypt. What encrypt? Encrypt this particular text which I have given here. You just look at my cursor. Now click on encrypt. It has encrypted. Now you see here, the welcome has gone to some other cryptography. So it has not done much of the encryption in this particular, because number of rows is also small and the text is also small. Now if I want to decrypt this particular text, it has given back me this particular text. Okay, so this is how the reference cipher works. Okay. Now Caesar cipher we were seeing that, right? Caesar cipher, shift operation. Okay, alphabet, character, and B. So here from A to Z, then Z to A. So encrypt it, you got this encryption. Hope you are seeing on the screen the selected this thing. This is encryption. If I want to decrypt this using the Caesar cipher with B as alphabet character, starting with B, then same key is to be used. So I decrypt it, I have got it back. Okay, so you can use this particular tool for understanding more about cryptography. Now I'll go to the next one that is called as root cipher. In root cipher, actually the name itself is saying something related to root, path. You have to draw a root as a key for encrypting the message. So what I have done is, I have first of all written this VR discovered flee at once is the input. So first of all, you have to plot this input in certain format. So I have written it in top down, right to left to right approach, V, W, E, A, R, E, discovered. If you can just look at my cursor, flee at once. This is how I have done. Now the route that I have drawn for this is this one. You have to draw a route. Once you have drawn this route, then simply follow this path. Now starting from here, if I start following this path in this way, okay, what will happen? Here, E, J, X, E, J, X, C, T, E, D, E, C, and all that. Simply follow, trace the path. That becomes your cipher text. It's very simple. So first of all, write the input characters in top to bottom and left to right fashion. You can write in other way also. You can write it in left to right and then top to bottom also. It's up to you. Here I have written top to bottom first. W, E. In the next row, E is coming. So that way. This is one more cipher. Third one is called as columnar transposition. In columnar transposition, the input that I have given is deposit 4 crore rupees in our Citibank. This is a confidential message and I want to lock this message. For locking, I have used columnar transposition as a lock. Now in this case, what is the key? The previous one, the key was this root. This is a secret. You will not tell this secret to Gabbar. Only the receiver will come to know this particular while decrypting. Similarly, deposit 4 crore rupees in our Citibank account. In this particular example, first of all, my key is Krishna. Okay, I have written the key here, Krishna. Okay, now here the rule is, once you plot the key, the number of columns should be equal to the number of characters in the key. So here, how many characters are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 alphabets, 7 characters are there. So in this particular example, because 7 alphabets, 7 characters are there, there should be 7 columns. So I have written here, I have applied left to right approach. You see here. Here I have to write, here I have taken top to bottom approach. So deposit, it is going in this way. Here we are discovered in this way. So deposit 4 crore rupees in our Citibank account. That is what I have done here. Okay. Now, once this is completed, now what will be the cipher text? For cipher text, you need to first of all decide that A is equals to 1, B is equals to 2, C is equals to 3, D is equals to 4, dash dash up to Z is equals to 26. Now, once you assign these numbers, so you take as per the numbers. A is equals to 1, so you take the first column as A column. Whatever characters that are coming in column A will become the first part in the cipher text, because A is equals to 1 I have given. So A is equals to 1 means the characters under A will be taken up first. Then the characters under H will be taken up first. Then second, sorry, then I. You look at this way. So this is the cipher text. This is how the encryption is done. So I have shown you till now 6 examples. 3 examples from substitution cipher and 3 examples from transposition ciphers. Okay, I hope that this particular cipher example encryption, this is just the And these are the basic examples. I have not gone into any mathematical aspect of it. This is just logical examples that I have given to you. Okay, I'll move on to the next cipher. Now, there are the first one that we have seen the classification slide. The classification of crypto systems has substitution cipher, transposition cipher that we have already discussed. Okay, how substitution works, how transposition works. Then the way in which the plaintext is processed. The way in which the plaintext is processed is block cipher and a stream cipher. What do you mean by a block cipher? What do you mean by a stream cipher? Block cipher means the input data the algorithm takes in the form of a block. A block may be of 32-bit size, 64-bit size, 128-bit size, 256-bit size. Okay, if it takes the data in that particular format, block format, then it is called as block cipher. So 128-bit block cipher, 64-bit block cipher, these are the examples. These are few of the examples of 128-bit block cipher and 256 block ciphers also. Oh, sorry, 128 and 64-bit block cipher. Then what do you mean by stream cipher? Stream cipher means the algorithm, the lock, the cipher takes each and every bit and then processes it, transforms that bit. Okay, that is what is called as stream cipher. So basically the transformation operation, the locking operation that is being done in block cipher is done on a block of data, whereas the transformation operation or the conversion of characters operation in stream ciphers is done based on stream of data, bits of data. That is what is called as bit and stream and block cipher. Suppose if the block cipher, if the algorithm is implemented in hardware, then it is called as S-box. And if substitution cipher is implemented in hardware, it is called as S-box. If transposition operation is implemented in the hardware, then it is called as P-box. Okay, this is what is S-box and P-box. Now, I have a couple of questions which I want you to interact with me here. And these are general questions. There is no need for you to have great security knowledge also. Just answer the questions related to this one. Okay. Now, there are a number of rounds. Now, whatever examples I have shown you, that is called as one round of operation only. Means I have taken input, does some computation of substitution or transposition, and I got the output. Okay, that is one round of operation. What is two round of operation? Two round of operation means the output of the first round, that is the cipher text, is taken as input for the second round. And again, processing is done. Then the output will come. Okay. If third round of operation means the output of the second round, that is a cipher text, is given as input to the third round. That is what's called as. Now as the number of rounds increases, the complexity of the output also increases. That means your data will be more secure if you go for more number of rounds. Okay. And the question is combination of S and P boxes. What do you mean by this? Suppose if you are designing an algorithm or a cipher, or if you are going to choose an algorithm or a cipher, then you need to look at how many substitution ciphers are there in that algorithm, how many transposition ciphers are there in that algorithm. Okay. And third one is who has implemented the algorithm, whether it is open source or proprietary. Now, let's come to the first question. Many of you might be decision makers also. So suppose if you have to take a decision related to your ministry data to be protected, then which type of algorithm you have to use. So you have to look at when you are going for choosing the algorithm, you need to look at these points. Okay, number of rounds. Okay, whether you have to go for more number of rounds or a less number of rounds algorithm. Which one do you think provides you more security, more strength? Can anyone reply? Can anyone respond to this question? Number of rounds. If the number of rounds are more, complexity will be more. I mean, you'll get a strong output. Okay, so whether you will go for more number of rounds, or you will go for average number of rounds, or you will go for less number of rounds. Okay, Saurabh is replying back saying that more number of rounds. Okay, any other answer? Average. Deepak Gupta ji is saying average. Okay, any other answer? Average. May I know why you are saying average, or if someone is saying more, then why you are saying more? I'll reply. I'll give the answer. according to my understanding, what is there. I'll give you the answer. Let's share our understandings. What do you think based on the security required? Exactly, Rishabji. Exactly. Now I need to look at the organization's requirement, whether complexity increases and deciphering at receiver is complex. Exactly. Now we need to look at actually if I increase the number of rounds, obviously there will be a complexity that comes with it, and you will get a more strong ciphertext, which will be quite difficult for the deciphering or decrypting. But at the same time, does your online system or application, I mean, does your application really can sustain that much of time complexity? Because encryption is also taking too much time, decryption is also taking too much time, and does your application will be able to retain the users of that particular application is the big question that you need to ask. So you need to balance between that. You need to look at the time complexity also, and you need to look at the computational complexity also. Which one is much required? Based on that, you have to walk a middle path. Okay. Now, second is combination of S&P boxes. The answer is, I mean, if S&P boxes are combinedly used, then obviously the output will be more strong. Now, third thing, who has implemented the algorithm? Now, please tell me the answer for this. Whether would you like to look at who has implemented the algorithm or not? And what do you mean by this? Who has implemented this algorithm? Any answer? Then I'll proceed further. Anyone? Do you really think that who has implemented the algorithm is to be seen or not, is to be checked or not? Okay, okay. Let me tell you who has implemented the algorithm means. I'll give you one example. One company ABC is there. I don't want to name any company. This company is a service-based company. It is not product-based company. It only provides services. Okay, there are many companies in India also who provides only services, not the product. They have not developed their own products. So service-based companies are there. So if service-based company is there, then will I give my requirement of development of security application to that particular service-based company? No, obviously not, because they don't have development experience. If I give the implementation work of my security algorithm to a product-based company also who develops the product, now I need to look at what kind of products they develop. Okay, if they have developed the general products without keeping the security in mind, then I should not be giving the work of my project development to that particular company, because they don't have implementation of security projects experience. Okay, and third thing is, if someone has implemented, I would obviously look at their certifications, whether they are following the secure coding practices or not, whether they are following all whether do they have the security related certifications or not, whether do they have the experienced people for development or not. All these things I surely look into. Okay, that is what is who has implemented the algorithm. If I give my very important project, very important product which I am coming up with and which requires high level of security, and if I give it to some company which is just a startup, and not only startup, a company which does not have experienced security programmers or secure coding people, then what will happen is the freshers and other people, they will develop in their own way. The product will be completed, but it will not be a perfect solution. Okay, they may end up leaving the many loopholes in the project from where the hackers can get into my project and hack. Okay, that is where I need to look at this particular concept, I mean this particular aspect of development, who has implemented the algorithm. Now, my last question, I request you to answer this, whether open source is better or proprietary is better. Which one would you like to go for? Okay, proprietary is one answer. Why proprietary is my question. If proprietary is the answer, why proprietary? If open source is the answer, then why open source? Okay, let me tell you that if I am going for open source, okay, Saurabh is saying that we can modify open source as per our needs. Yes. If and one more thing is open source can be modified according to our needs. Yes, sir. Agreed. So if I go for open source, the most important aspect of open source is it is developed in open domain and it is exposed to the entire world, and people have seen that particular code and they have identified and given me the comments. And when I have incorporated those comments, then only that particular project has become more and more strong. Okay, comparing to a proprietary. Proprietary means in my organization only I have developed without showing it to anybody else and without exposing it to the experts. Now I am saying that this is proprietary and this is strong. Where it is tested, where it is tested, and whether if it is tested also, whether it is tested by the experts, whether it is tested by a variety of experts or not. All those questions will come. Okay, that is why many of the people, what they are doing is, I mean, you can see also in open domain, first their idea they are implementing it and putting it on open source. And once it is going under full scrutiny by many of the experts from the security point of view, from the development point of view, when it is almost nearly becoming perfect, now they are putting that particular version in the open source only, and they are modifying little bit to it, and that modified version they are commercializing it. They are coming up with their own companies. I have seen online there are many such products which were earlier, some 5 years or 10 years back, those products were in open source domain, but now they are not supporting it also. They have just kept it in open source. Now the advanced or the modified version of it, they have made it as a proprietary, and then they are selling it. Okay, this is also a very good model. Okay, you can customize. Yeah, is beta testing done for this purpose? Yes, beta testing is done. For which purpose? For the purpose of open source or proprietary? That is what I am saying. If the open source is taken after all the scrutiny from the security point of view and every point of view, when they are doing, after this only they are going for commercialization of aspect of it. Once they go for the commercialization aspect of it, they'll go for beta testing, integration testing, unit testing, everything. Okay, sir. Now let us go further. Let me just throw some light on to DES, data encryption standard. DES is actually, it was a very popular encryption scheme. It processes, this is called as a block cipher because it processes the data blocks at a time, blocks of data at a time. Okay, a simplified version of DES is called as SDES, single DES, which is used for educational purpose anyhow. Okay, now this algorithm actually was created and invented by IBM, and they had named it as Lucifer. Later on, it was adopted by NBS, National Bureau of Standards, which is now called as NIST of United States, National Institute of Standards and Technology. It was adopted in 1977. Okay, so then initially the key size of that particular cipher was 128-bit. Later on, they reduced it to 64-bit, and that 64-bit at that time, whatever chips were available, because they wanted to make it on hardware also, hardware-based encryption. So what happened was they wanted to fit it in a hardware chip, and the chips that were available at that time were not able to support the 64-bit key. So they have reduced the key size further to 56-bit keys, 56-bit. Okay, to encrypt 64-bit block. That is why it is called as block cipher. Okay, now, and how many number of rounds were there? There are 16 stages. That is 16 rounds over there. Okay, plus initial and final computation. Now let us discuss one round of operation of DES. Okay, data encryption style. What is the one round of operation? Now one round of operation is how many? What is the block size? Block size is 64-bit block. Okay, and the key size is 56-bit. Remember that. Now, first thing, in the first step, what they do is this 64-bit block is divided into two halves. One is called as left half, and the second one is called as right half. And left half is 32 bits. Okay, and the right half is 32 bits. So this 64-bit block, like in the previous slide you have seen, the 64-bit block. 64-bit block is now divided into left half and right half. And you have a key of 56-bit. Now see, this 56 and 32 does not match. That is why what you have to do, you have to reduce the key size, or at least you have to increase the data size. So what they will do is they'll compress it a little bit. So they'll apply the shift computation operation. This 56-bit key will be reduced to after compression and shift operation. It will be reduced to 48 bits now. This 48 bits, and here they apply an E-box. E-box means expansion box. This 32 becomes 48 bits. This 48 plus 48 is XORed. And then further it is compressed to 32 bits using S-box. What is S-box? S-box is substitution operation. Okay, substitution operation. Some substitution operation they're using. Okay, so 32 bits. Now, this is the first step. Now, second step is the output of this S-box is fed to P-box, which is transposition operation, transposition cipher. And this P-box output is now XORed with, till now you remember that we have not done anything to left half. So these two are XORed. When these two are XORed, you got the new right half. The output is called as new right half. So this is the first round of operation. Now what is the new left half? New left half will be the existing right half will become the new left half. So in this particular case, the left half and the right half will replace the existing one in the second round. So this is the first round of operation. In the second round, what will happen is this 32 bits, this ln will be replaced by ln plus 1, the first one. So in this way, 16 rounds of operations will happen. Okay. After 16 rounds also, and so many operations here you are seeing, compression, shift operation, then expansion is happening, then XOR, then substitution operation, then transposition operation, then again XORing, then exchanging this becomes new right half, this becomes new left half. Still, then this is first one round of operation. 16 such rounds happens. Even that has not stopped any attack on DES. And the attack happened because of weak key size. If key is very small, then the algorithms can be easily hacked or cracked. For example, I'll give you an example. Let us say we have a strong room. We have a disaster recovery center, DR, or we have a data center. So in that data center, we have asked the Godrej or any other lock manufacturers to manufacture a special lock with the dimensions that I am telling, a very big dimension and all that stuff. I'm telling, so such a strong lock is created or made or manufactured, but that particular lock can be opened or unlocked with a simple piece of nail or a hairpin. Then there is no security of that lock. Similarly, such a good algorithm with lot of rounds, 16 rounds of operation, block cipher, can be done on a hardware also, all those things. But since the key size is weak, it is just 56 bit. So 2 to the power of 56 combinations are there. So weak key size has led to the DES cracking. Originally it was 128, as I told in the beginning, but later on it was shortened to 56 bit to fit in on one chip at that time, whatever chips were available. Okay, brute force attack were tried on to break this particular DES. So there are two projects that were used, that were implemented to break the security of DES. One is called as Deep Crack, second one is called as Distributed.net. Okay, it's just a brief understanding of ciphers and DES. Now I'm moving on to another type of cryptographic mechanism or crypto system that is called as hash function. I request your concentration on this particular aspect. I request you, if you have any query till this point, you please ask me, because we are now moving on to a different topic now, hash function. Do you have any questions, sir? Can I proceed further? Please let me know. Any questions are there? Shall I proceed further? Am I audible? There is no response. Okay. Okay. Okay, thank you very much. I'll proceed further now. Now we are going to talk about hash functions, which is very, very, very important cryptographic function, especially when we talk about digital signatures. Okay. Now, please remember that encryption, decryption, or cipher that we have taken the example for. Okay. Uh, Encryption, when you encrypt, you can decrypt. That means reverse is possible. When you lock, you can unlock also. Reverse is also possible. Okay. So in real life, you have already seen the door locks. Okay. You can, when you lock, you can unlock as well. All the locks. When you lock, you can unlock also. Okay. Now here we are going to talk about a function, cryptographic hash function, which operates in one way, which operates as a one-way function. What is this one-way function? This means it's a one-way lock. One-way lock means once you lock it, you can never unlock it. I request you to give an answer in this. Have you seen a lock in your life which once it is locked, you can never unlock it? Can anyone give an example? You can type it in the chat box. Have you seen yes or no? At least you can type this. We have seen two-way locks, means once you can lock, you can unlock as well. Whereas here, hash function, I'm trying to relate to a real life scenario, real life example. Have you seen a lock which can never be unlocked? Once it is locked, it can never be unlocked. Have you seen that such type of example? Yes or no? No, you have not seen. Okay. Others also, Deepakji is quite active and interactively participating in this particular session. Thank you very much, sir. I hope all other are also interactive. So you have not seen. Let me give an example. In shopping malls and in big hyper markets and all, you might have seen that after you purchase the items, on the carry bag, they put a zip tag, which comes to wrap wires, etc. Okay, cable tie, which, yeah, exactly. So zip tags, which basically is a one-way lock. Once it is locked, you can never unlock it. You have to cut it. And here the example that they are giving, no, cable tie, which comes to wrap wires. Yes, that is also true. So once it is locked, it can never be unlocked. Many people have asked this question about hash functions. I request you to please concentrate on hash functions, because in digital signature, hash function is the integral part. Without hash functions, digital signature is not possible. Okay. So many people ask the question that what is the use of hash functions? What is the use of one-way lock? So one-way lock has its own use, its own use cases and applications. Similarly, hash function also has its own applications. Okay. Now, what is this hash function? A hash function is the one which operates in a one-way fashion, and as an output, it creates a fingerprint. What is this fingerprint? What is this fingerprint? In technical term, it is called as message digest. Okay. There in encryption, decryption, the output you call it as ciphertext. Whereas here, the output you call it as message digest. This is the difference. If I try to compare both ciphers as well as hash function, cipher operates in two way, encryption and decryption. Hash functions operates in one way. The output of cipher is called as ciphertext. The output of hash function is called as message digest. Okay. And third difference is the output of cipher is variable size, whereas the output of hash function is fixed size output. The output of hash function is fixed size output. What do you mean by this fixed size? Let me show you an example. And third one is change to a message produces a different digest. Once you change an input, the output will also get changed. Okay. There are various examples. MD5, message digest version 5, and SHA, secure hashing algorithm, SHA-1, SHA-2 are the examples. Please see this particular demo example which I am showing here online. Okay, I hope that you are able to see the window here. Online hash calculator. Tools for nodes. Okay, let me take this particular online hash calculator. Can you see this screen, sir? Yes, all of you. Can you see the screen? Yes. Okay. Thank you. So here you see, I'm going to compute the hash operation, hash of a particular text. Okay. So I'm writing hello participants. Hello participants. Okay. Now this one I want to hash it. Hash it which algorithm? Any algorithm. There are many algorithms that are shown here that are provided by this particular website. So many algorithms are there. But let me concentrate on SHA 256 secure hashing algorithm version 2 with a version of 256. Okay. Because this is what is Government of India recommends. SHA 2. SHA 2 has 4 versions. SHA 224, SHA 256, SHA 384, SHA 512. These all are called as SHA 2. SHA 1 was only one version, SHA-1. But SHA-2 has 4 versions, SHA 224, SHA 256, 384, and 512. Let me take the example of 256. Okay. Now see here, I click on hash. Here the output will come. I click on hash. This is the output. This is the output. Okay, now see the size of this output. Okay, this is the size. Please remember this. This is the size of the output. Okay, now what I will do, what it has given here, fixed size output. Fixed size output. In the PPT, it is given as fixed size output. So irrespective of the size of the input, the output size will always be fixed size, same size. It will not change. The size will not change. Second, change to a message produces a different digest. If I make a change in this particular message, you will get a different digest. Let me show you both fixed size output as well as change to a message. Now in change to a message, I am just deleting this S. I have written as participant. I'm using the same algorithm. I'm computing the hash. Now see the output. Output is different here. It is starting with 313B and ending with CDD. What was the output for participants? This is the output, CF8. That one was starting with 313. Okay. Now, this you have seen for change to a message produces a different digest. Now, if I add a full stop, what will happen? So again, CF8 it is starting. So this should change actually. So it has changed. 712 ending with 018D. Okay, this is what is message digest. This is called as fingerprint. Why they are calling it as fingerprint? Because fingerprint will never change over time. It will never change. Fingerprint will always be same for a person till his lifetime. Okay. Similarly, here the hash 256, SHA-256, if I compute for hello participants full stop today on 24th March 2021, and if I compute the hash of hello participants with full stop after 24 years or after 20 years, like 24th March 2041, then also I will get the same output, or I should get the same output. I must get the same output. Okay, that is what is hash function. Someone is writing something in chat. In case we write the same text, then will the message digest be same? Yes, message digest will be same. See here, hello participants. For this, now this is the message 71288. Hash this, same output. Hash this, same output. That is what I am saying. That is why it is called as fingerprint. Your question is related to fingerprint. Now, second point is, since in hash maps, it produces the same result each time in case of collections. Okay, yeah. Okay, now this we have seen that change to a message produces a different digest. Now, let me show you the fixed size output property. This is second property, fixed size output property. Now, in this fixed size output property, I have deleted the word called participant or participants. Now, in case of participants, I have deleted, so the output size from here to here, output size should be same. Output will be different, but the size will be same. Now hash this. See the size is same, but the output content is different. Hello. Okay, what will be the output if I put a just full stop? I have put a full stop only. Let us see. See the output size. Again, same. What is the input? Input is just full stop. Now I am deleting that full stop also. I am just putting a space here. I have just added a space here. Just added a space here. In this space, if I compute hash, Again, the output is changed. So whatever ASCII characters are there, for every ASCII character, the output will be different. Now, one question is, if the output is same, can we reverse the message? I mean, decrypt it. No, you cannot decrypt it. If the output is same, can we? First of all, this is irreversible. Let me give you a very simple example. In real life, sugarcane juice machine you have seen, everyone has seen, right? I am giving sugarcane as input. I am getting the juice as output. Can the juice be reverse transformed to get the sugarcane back? No, it is not possible. This can be true for many such examples. I am generally giving this sugarcane example. Okay, so how do we decrypt the message from the message digest? No, there is no decryption at all. One question has come as a private message. Sir, how do we decrypt the message from the message digest? There is no decryption, sir. No decryption. That is what is the quality of this particular hash function. That is why this becomes the integral part of digital signatures. When we talk about digital signature, I hope that you will understand what is the importance of this hash function having a property of irreversibility. It is called as irreversible property. So hash is irreversible. It cannot be reversed. Okay. Now, few people, just for your interest, because you might get a doubt. That is why I'm showing MD5 decrypt. There are many websites who says that. See, if you see my cursor here, MD5 decrypt and encrypt more than 1,000 lakhs, 10 lakhs crore, 10 crore, 100 crore, 1,000 crore, 1,500 crore hashes are there, and they are decrypting it. Let me show you this particular example. See this example and just think over it. I'll explain you how it is happening, but just think over it, how they might be doing it. Okay, see, he's saying decrypt. But I am saying that hash is irreversible. I am saying that hash is, I'm not saying, basically the technology says that it should be irreversible. Okay, so now let me do one thing. Our general password that we use is admin123. Okay, admin123. I'll do it using MD5. Here you can see I have selected MD5 in algorithm. MD5 I have selected. I'm hashing it. MD5 produces a 160-bit output. That is why output size is small. So I'm copying this. I'll put it here because he's saying that you will decrypt it. Okay. The question that you are asking, no, you cannot decrypt it. But here you are seeing a magic. Oh, what is this? Okay, sir. This is too much. Do not ask so many questions. Okay. Now decrypt. See here, found admin123. How come it is happening? How come it is happening? Can anyone reply in the chat box? How come it is happening? I am saying that you cannot decrypt it. Common things. Yeah. Look up. Exactly. So what they have done is the commonly used passwords or the commonly used texts. What the people will do is they will compute the hash with various algorithms. You have different algorithms here, MD5, SHA, SHA-224, SHA-226, and all that. Every website is different. Like MD5 decrypt, you have. So it is not basically decryption. You should not get confused between this decryption and the decryption of ciphers. Cipher is a clear-cut reversible process. This is irreversible process. So what they are doing in hash is, like what I have done, I have created admin123 and its corresponding hash. So a database will be maintained for this particular plain text. This is the message digest. For this particular plain text, this is the message digest. So they have fingerprint for common words. Exactly. Now, that is why it is said that the password should not be from a dictionary word. The password that you use should not be common passwords. Why? Because they already have the hash values, that is message digest values of your passwords as well. They already have it. That is why your password should be very much strong and it should have a combination, complex combination. so that the complex combinations relevant and corresponding hash is not there in the database. Let me show you one more thing. Okay, let me check. I don't use this password, but I'm just trying to check. Okay, hash this. This is not my password, but let me check whether this is there or not. Again, this particular problem is there. Okay. See, no result found in our database. No result found in our database. That means MISBA 123, its corresponding message digest with MD5 as an algorithm is not found in their database. Okay, but now next time they may keep it because I have entered the message digest. Okay, they may keep it for the processing. I don't know. Okay, so this is different. This is not decryption. This is just a lookup in the existing dictionary that they are maintaining. Okay, so this is what is hash. So we have seen the hash creates a digital representation, or it is also called as fingerprint, and it is fixed size output. Change to a message produces a different digest. Now the basic properties of hash function is consistency. Same input must produce the same message digest. There should not be any randomness. I gave you the example in the beginning that 24th March 2021, I am computing hash of admin 123 sitting in Bangalore. In 2041, if I go to US or England or anywhere and I use the same hash function and try to compute admin 123, I must get the same message digest. There should not be any randomness in it. That is what is the consistency property. Second one is uniqueness property, very important. Like for every given input, there should be a unique output. The output should not match with any of the given input. Okay, unless and until the input is same. For every different input, the output should be different. Computationally infeasible to identify two messages that will generate the same message digest. Yes, that property is called as uniqueness property. And please remember that if the uniqueness property is not found in a particular hash function, then that hash function cannot be used for integrity check and digital signatures in any of the countries. MD5 was discarded due to that fears only. SHA1 SHA1 algorithm is also discarded due to those fears only. Okay, and suppose if the uniqueness property is breached, for example, if hash of CDAC, all in capital letters, hash of India, both outputs should be different, but unfortunately a hash function is producing the message digest of both the hash functions are same, then in that case that particular hash function is to be immediately discarded. Please remember that. Okay, because that particular property is called as collision attack. Collision, because two inputs are colliding on the same output. That is why it's called as collision attack. One way property we have already seen. Computationally, it is infeasible to identify the input message given a message digest. Okay, here examples are given, which I have already shown you live examples. Here the only difference that you see is 3 p.m. and 3 p.m. full stop. Because of full stop, the message digest is different. Okay. Now that is what is the question asked. If a message digest is given, can I decrypt it? Can I reverse it? No. From the sugarcane juice, you cannot get the sugarcane out of it. That is what is the example. So these are the various examples of hash functions: MD5, SHA1, and SHA2. MD5, SHA1, and SHA2. MD5 always generates an output size of 128 bits. Sorry, during just previous slide, I told MD5 generates 160 bit, while actually SHA1 generates 160 bits. MD5 generates 128 bits. Okay, and SHA2 generates 224, 256, and 384, 512. As I told you earlier, 4 versions are there: 224, 256, 384, and 512. So how to retrieve hashed messages. Hash messages you cannot retrieve, only you will get the message digest. That's it. Then you just get the message digest. You will not be able to get the plain text out of that. Okay, that is basically for integrity check as well as digital signatures. Okay. Now next, We'll go to the next point. Example of hash functions. Generally, it is used in authentication. Let me give an example saying that I registered to a Gmail account. Okay, so while setting the password, when I set the password, what the Gmail server does is it computes the hash of my password and keep the message digest in its database. My password will be stored in the message digest format. And I mean, at the time of login, when I enter the same password without making any mistake in capital and small letters also, then again at the login time, the Gmail server will compute hash of the password which I entered. And then this message digest, which is just now computed, is compared with the message digest which is stored at the server in the database. If both are same, if both are matching, then my authentication is done. That is why when you enter one character wrongly, or at least the case of the password wrongly, instead of uppercase, if I'm entering lowercase letter, there the server throws an error saying that the password does not match. Why it is not matching? Because the message digest for small letter and capital letter also will be different. Okay, that is why it does not. This is the biggest example of hash functions. Another biggest example is digital signatures, which anyhow we are going to cover after tea time. Okay, now again, there is no technicality that I'm going to discuss here in symmetric key cryptography and asymmetric key cryptography. Symmetric key cryptography, symmetric, the name itself is saying that same key is used for locking as well as unlocking. And this particular cryptographic mechanism is also called as single key cryptography or secret key cryptography. Okay, meanwhile, someone asked the question, what is salt? Salt is just a random number that is added to a password. It is added to a password because your password is always same. So while during the transit, the password, if salt is a random number, no? So that particular random value is added to your password during the transit. Okay, so when the salt is added, your password gets a randomness to it. So if someone intercepts also, they'll not be able to do anything. Okay, they'll not be able to figure out what is your original password basically. Okay, so it's also called as secret key cryptography or single key cryptography. And it uses one key shared by both sender and receiver. Now I would like to spend some time here. Okay, it is saying that the one key is shared by both sender and receiver. Now the question comes is how the sender and receiver will share the key. This is the big challenge. It is called as key distribution. Okay, how the sender and receiver is going to exchange the key. If we both know each other and if we both live in a single geographical location, then we can exchange the key manually, going and meeting each other. Suppose like you are sitting in Delhi or any other place across India, I am sitting in Bangalore. If I want to share the key with you, what should be the mechanism? Okay, shall I mail it to you? I don't know. I can't. How can I validate your email ID? First of all, how can I validate you? How can I authenticate you? So there are so many questions that will arise. Okay, so the simplest way is out of band communication you have to do. Out of band communication means by way of letter or courier, whatever. Out of band communication you have to do. If I send through email, then whether you are receiving the email or not, it is going to spam or that email is intercepted by somebody, I don't know. Because this one key, if it is compromised, then it will have a disastrous effect because entire communication can be compromised. Because only one key is there for both locking as well as unlocking. If Gabbar gets that particular key, he can also unlock that particular communication. Okay. So this key is used both for encryption and decryption, locking and unlocking, which I already told you. Both parties have to agree on the key before start of the communication. Yes, agreed to this point. Encryption and decryption is extremely fast comparing to asymmetric key cryptography. Why the encryption is very fast here? Because the key size here is smaller comparing to asymmetric key cryptography. In symmetric key cryptography, the key size goes up to 256 or maximum 512. 256 mostly 128-bit, 256-bit key. Whereas the key size of RSA algorithm starts with 1024, and in India, as per the government guidelines, we presently use 2048-bit key. So the key size is more in asymmetric cryptography. That's why the computation will take some time comparing to the symmetric key cryptography. So from computation time point of view, time complexity point of view, the symmetric key cryptography is extremely fast comparing to asymmetric key cryptography. Now, please let us go back to the example of Payne properties. Okay, Payne properties. Now in Payne properties, Payne or Kane properties, whatever you say, confidentiality. So I want to look at what all properties I can achieve, whether I can achieve confidentiality, authenticity, integrity, non-repudiation from the point of view of symmetric key cryptography. Okay, so let us see the example. Again, I'm going to Jay and Viru example. Jay wants to send a confidential message to Viru. So what he will do, first of all, he'll lock the message. I'm writing it as encrypted. Instead of cipher, I'm writing it as encrypted, no problem. So I'm encrypting it, I'm locking it with the key which Jay and Viru both are sharing. So Jay has created a message, Jay has encrypted the message using the key Jay and Viru are sharing. Now this particular message has become a ciphertext and it has become a confidential message, because even Gabbar with his own version of key tries to decrypt it, he will not be able to decrypt that particular message. Okay, and this particular message goes to Viru. Viru will unlock it using the decryption algorithm, that is DES or whatever he has used, with the key shared between Jay and Viru. Viru will get the message. So with this particular example, we have seen the implementation of confidentiality and authenticity also. Why authenticity? Because when Viru is able to decrypt the message using the key shared by Jay, then that means that Jay only has sent the message. That is what is the authentication. Okay. Now, unauthorized login attempt, which is also called as a spoofing attempt. Gabbar and Viru. Gabbar is trying to pretend to be Jay. Gabbar is not Jay, but Gabbar is trying to pretend to be Jay. So what Gabbar is doing is, hi Viru, I'm Jay, he's writing. And then he knows that these two guys are using AES algorithm or CES or DES, some cipher name he knows, but he does not have a key. So what he does, it requires 128-bit key. So he'll generate it to an attacker's version of key. And with that key, he will lock this particular message, and he is spoofing the email of Jay and sending a message to Viru. Now Viru, when he sees the email saying that, okay, this mail is coming from Jay, and then this is encrypted message. So what Viru will do, he'll pick out the key which Jay and Viru are sharing. And then he'll try to decrypt the message, try to unlock that message, but he will not get the actual message. He will get the gen characters. There he will understand that there was some spoofing attempt, impersonation kind of attempt that was done, or unauthorized login attempt that was done by someone else. Okay, so this is also can be identified. Now, third thing, confidentiality we have seen, authenticity we have seen. Now let us talk about integrity. Out of those four properties, let us come to integrity aspect. Now, integrity point of view, Jay created a message because integrity is required. What do you mean by integrity? Integrity means whatever Jay is sending, that particular thing is to be received by Viru as well. So Viru should be able to validate that during the transit, the data is not tampered, the data is not modified. Okay, for that particular purpose, Jay will first create a message, hi Viru, I'm Jay. And then he gives it to a hash function, any hash function, SHA1 or whatever example we have seen. Now, when it is hashed, you get a digest. It's a message digest. I'm calling it as digest simply. Okay. Now, this digest is encrypted. Now, this digest is encrypted, and the encrypted digest, I'm writing here it as encrypted digest. This encrypted digest and the plain text. This is the plain text, and this is the encrypted digest. These two combinedly are sent to Viru. Why these two are sent? Because Viru, when he decrypts this digest, he will get only the digest, which is irreversible. And this is sent for integrity check purpose. So the plain text is taken, and then Viru will compute another hash, cryptographic hash. Now this hash will provides a message digest. I am calling it as computed digest. This is decrypted digest. So basically, if you ignore this also, so this is a digest, this is also digest. Now try to compare if both are same. If both are same, the decrypted digest and the computed digest, then that means that the content, the message is not tampered during the transit. Okay. For example, let me give you an example. Okay. Let me give you an example. Suppose if Gabbar, because this is a plain text, Gabbar can see that. If Gabbar puts a comma here, hi Viru, I am Jay, or he puts a full stop, anything. So what will happen at the receiving end? At the receiving end, the message digest that is computed by Viru will be different from the computed digest. So here the integrity check will tell you whether the transaction during the transmission, the data or the message is tampered or not. Okay. Is it okay? Is it okay to everyone? Shall I proceed further? Please reply back. Are you able to get this particular example, or you want me to repeat something? Okay. Okay. Please repeat. Okay. Thank you very much for asking this. Why they need this? Why they need this? For integrity check. I'll explain you again. Okay. I'll try to discard this particular. Please repeat once again. Yes, I'm repeating it. Okay, sir. See, what happens is I have taken a message. Okay, or let us say Jay. Jay wants to this particular message requires integrity. Integrity means during the transit, no one should be able to modify that particular message. So what they have done, they have taken, Jay has taken a message, and directly if he sends the message, and if Gabbar modifies that particular message, then how Viru will come to know that during the transmission, this particular message is tampered or modified? Viru will not come to know. So Viru have to check at the receiving end that during the transit, the message was not tampered or the message is not modified. This is what Viru has to identify. This is Viru has to identify that. That is why integrity, for achieving integrity, what Jay has to do is Jay has to first of all compute the hash of that message digest of the document, and then that message digest of the message is encrypted with the shared key. Once it is encrypted with the shared key, I'm calling it as encrypted digest. That is kept for integrity check. And the plain text is to be kept along with that. Why the plain text is to be kept along with this one? Why the plain text is to be kept? Because the plain text is kept along with the encrypted digest, because Viru has to check the integrity of the message. Okay. Someone has commented something here. Let me read. I mean, if Gabbar know which hash encryption is used by Jay, it can spoof in future. No, that is what. Very good question. What the participant is asking is, if Gabbar comes to know that this particular Jay and Viru are using, let us say SHA-256, even then Gabbar cannot do anything. Gabbar has digest message and original message. He easily know that. No. This one, Himraj Meena, this one, please remember that here the digest is being encrypted and this key is not there with Gabbar. Okay, I am not sending this particular digest as it is without encrypting. If I send this as it is, let us say I am not doing any encryption here. Encryption and decryption is not there here. So what will happen? Jay has created this message and sent digest directly just to avoid this encryption. So what will happen? Gabbar will create a new message and Gabbar will compute the hash of that newly created message, and both message and digest will be sent to Viru. And Viru will not come to know that such a big change has happened during the transition. That is why this digest is encrypted. Okay. So what that's why I'm asking. Thanks. Okay. I don't know whether I answered your query or not. Please reply whether you have got the answer to that question. Okay. Okay. Now, that is why we are encrypting. Now, again, for those who has requested for repetition of this, what is being done is signing PDF. I'll come to that. Integrity. If we understand this particular example, I hope that you will be easily understanding the digital signature concept also. Now, what happens here is Jay wants to send a message which requires integrity check. So Jay will create a message, and after creating the message, he will compute the hash value of it. So the resultant value is digest, message digest. This message digest is encrypted now. First of all, message is irreversible. Message digest is irreversible, sorry. This digest, irreversible digest is again being encrypted, again being logged. Now this logged digest along with the plain text is sent to Viru. Now when Viru receives this, first is the logged digest. This logged digest, he will unlock it. When you unlock, you will get a message digest only. Second, he has got the message and he want to confirm that this message is not tampered. So if it is not tampered, this message will also produce the same digest if you subject to hash function. So this message digest and the received unlocked message digest and the computed message digest will match. If both matches, then the integrity is achieved. Okay. In this particular example, there are two properties that are achieved. One is integrity. Second one is authenticity. Authenticity because key based authentication is done between J and V. What about confidentiality? Gabbar is able to read this message. No, if he's not able to modify, okay, but he's able to read this message. So for achieving confidentiality, what you need to do is you need to put a second lock here. You need to put another lock. What you are going to do? This particular content you are locking in again. Now lock it again using key 2 or using the same key. That you have to decide. If you go for key 2, then more number of keys you have to maintain. If you want to use key 1, you can use efficient also. But I mean, some level of security, you have to compromise. Okay. Because if key 1 is compromised, everything will be compromised. So you need to give more care to the security of the key as well. Anyhow, let us leave aside that discussion. Okay. So the confidentiality and integrity and authenticity can be achieved just by putting another lock on this particular wrapper. So now we have got two locks. One lock, I'm doing it here on the digest. Second lock overall along with the digest and the plain text, the entire thing I'm putting it in an envelope and then wrapping it, and then envelope I'm sealing it, and then I'm sending it. Okay, this is what is confidentiality, integrity, and authenticity with the help of symmetric key cryptography. Very good. Okay, now issues. J and Viru must agree on the secret key without anyone else finding out. Obviously, when I want to communicate with you, obviously I should be able to agree on a key, shared key or the single key or the secret key in such a way that the third party or unauthorized party should not be able to know the key. Okay, that is what is the first condition. Issues. But it's quite difficult, as I said to you. How should I share the key with you, especially when I don't know who you are? Okay. Second thing, compromise of the shared key leads to compromise of communication, obviously, because one key is used for locking as well as unlocking. So compromise of this particular key will compromise the entire communication. Let us say Gabbar is sitting for last 1 year. He is only intercepting, keeping a copy of the transmission or the transactions that are happening between me and you. He's not doing anything. He's just waiting for the right time to get the key. Suppose once he gets the key, he will be able to decrypt the present message as well as all the previous messages which he has kept. That is why it is said that compromise of the entire communication will happen if the secret key is compromised. Okay. And the third challenge with symmetric key cryptography is secure key distribution and scaling. Secure key distribution and scaling. Key distribution is okay. Scaling means for one particular member, how many keys I have to share. Okay. N into n minus 1 by 2 is the formula. If I want to communicate, if I want to share the keys for 100 people, then n into n minus 1, or let us say 10 into 9 divided by 2 number of keys are to be maintained all over together by n. Let us say I want to communicate with 10 people. So overall, total number of keys that are required in this communication will be n into n minus 1 by 2. Okay, that is what is key distribution and scaling. Confidentiality, integrity, and authenticity can be achieved using symmetric key cryptography. What about non-repudiation? Okay, just after completing this particular example, we will go for a break for 10 minutes. Okay, then I will continue with the digital signature as well as the asymmetric key cryptography. Now, what about non-repudiation? The most important aspect. Non-repudiation means proving that you are not aligned. Okay, someone has, okay, very well explained. Thank you very much. I will come back again. So what about non-repudiation? So what is non-repudiation? Non-repudiation is your system or your application is not allowing somebody to deny doing some act. Okay, is not allowing, your system is not allowing. If let us say I send a message to you, later on I'm denying, saying that I have not sent a message to you. Okay, but your system is catching and providing the evidences in the court of law saying that this person only indeed has sent the message and now he is denying. If your application is doing that, then that means your application also provides non-repudiation property, which is one of the very important properties of trust. Okay, but symmetric key cryptography, can it provide non-repudiation? No, challenging. It's very challenging. I will say no. I will give you an example. Please concentrate in this on this particular example, and while having tea, you can just discuss and come back and tell me whether the example that I have given is correct or not. Now, again, go back to the example of Jay and Viru. Okay, Jay and Viru are both friends, but later on some matter, they have, they have broken their friendship, and they are no more friends. So out of the anger, before, while they were very good friends, they used to communicate through email or some communication system, and their communication was encrypted communication. So that means both have shared the key also. Now, out of anger during this, Jay has sent a threatening message to Viru. Sending a threatening email or a message is considered as cybercrime. Okay, so Viru took it offensive, and then he went to the court of law, and he filed a case. So the court of law has now brought both the parties, and the case is being started. Okay, now Viru is saying that, sir, this guy has sent a threatening message to me. Jay is saying that I don't know who this person is. First of all, I have never sent a message. So the first thing that Jay will do, will deny. He will deny. Okay, that repudiate. He will try to repudiate. Now the non-repudiation is to be proved by Viru. So he will repudiate. He will say that no, you have not done this. Okay, I have not sent this mail. Viru said that no, sir, he only has sent because he has sent an encrypted message. We used to have encrypted communication earlier. He has sent the encrypted message, and we both had shared the keys. Jay will say that, sir, I don't know who this person is. I have never sent a message to him. Now he's talking about encrypted message. When I don't know this person, how can I share the key with him? Is the big question. So Viru will say that, sir, we both were friends earlier, and we both have a common friend called Thakur. Now this Thakur knows both of us, and we had shared the key in front of Thakur. So I can provide the witness evidence of our sharing of key. Now when Thakur is brought into the court of law, Jay will say that, first of all, I don't recognize who this guy is, who this person is. I don't know who he is. Okay, so I can't say. And again, I'm saying that I have not sent a message to him. Now, the judge will ask Thakur, do you know these two guys? He said, yes, he is Jay, he is Viru. I know both of them. Now the court of law asks, do you know that these both used to have communication? Thakur will say, yes. Third thing, do you know that they both used to have encrypted communication? Thakur says, yes. Now, third question, do you know that these two had shared the key for having the encrypted communication? Thakur says, yes. Immediately Jay says, okay, sir, if he knows that we both had shared key, was he present on that day? He said, yes, I was present. I have seen your keys. I have seen you sharing the key. So immediately Jay will say that, sir, in that case, this particular person called Viru might have given the share. First of all, I don't know who this guy is, but still, if hypothetically, if you take it also that he was my friend, then he must have given the key, shared key to Thakur to send a spoofing email to Viru. in my name with my email ID. So this might be a spoofed attempt. I have not sent this mail. So how will you prove in the court of law, especially with the help of keys? Because here we are dealing with the shared key concept. Please remember that once anything is shared, it cannot be called as a secret. Okay, shared cannot be a secret. In security, somewhere I have read shared cannot be a secret. So here we are dealing with this shared secret. Okay, that is where the non-repudiation property cannot be achieved in the court of law using symmetric key cryptography. That is why we move on to asymmetric key cryptography. And asymmetric key cryptography is used for digital signature as well. Okay, if you have any questions, you please type. Now I will go for break at 3:50. 3 minutes we have. 3:50 we'll go for break, and then 4 o'clock we'll come back and I'll start the digital signature topic. Okay, if you have any questions, you please ask. Are there any questions? Okay, let me check in question answer. Okay, there are some questions here. I'm sorry, I have not looked at this. Question answer panel. This case does not explain non-repudiation. Which case? 349. Which case, Amit Batraji? Can you please tell which particular case you're talking about? Yes, non-repudiation cannot be achieved in this particular JVRU, this symmetric key cryptography. Non-repudiation is not possible. That is what I am saying. Okay. For any technology to be claimed as a trust mean to be claimed to be a trust properties achievement kind of a technology, non-repudiation is very important because in the court of law it is to be proved. Okay. Any question or any other thing? Okay, we will break for tea now. We will come back at 4 o'clock. Okay, I'll start the digital signature topic. Okay.